إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على سبيله إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So we've reached the book of menses, Bab al-Hayd, or the chapter of menstruation, inshallah ta'ala. And I think I mentioned last lesson for sisters who have questions on this topic to ask the teachers who are from the women, inshallah ta'ala, not ask myself. Barakallahu fikum. However, we will mention matters min bab dirasa, min bab al-ilm. But as for my request, I hope that is respected. Barakallahu fikum. Bab al-Hayd. والأصل في الدم الذي يصيب المرأة أنه حيض بلا حد لسنه ولا قدره ولا تقرره. It mentioned that the foundation regarding blood that is discharged from a woman should be first considered to be menstrual blood, regardless of the age, the amount, or repetition. لعدم الدليل الشرعي المقتضي للتحديد, because there isn't any evidence that would suggest otherwise. نعم. إلا إن أطبق الدم على المرأة أو صار لا ينقطع عنها إلا يسيرا فإنها تسير مستحاضة. It mentions except if the blood continuously flows and does not stop except for a short while, in that case should be considered to be mustahada, i.e. suffering from defective bleeding. فقد أمرها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن تجلس عادتها. The Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, for the one who doesn't have a regular cycle, then she is to observe the rulings according to her normal custom of her normal duration of her menses. I.e., when it initially started, she would have a custom cycle that she would be aware of. If she is later affected with irregular cycles and the likes, prolonged cycles that don't come to the end, then she would measure according to her original cycle, her norm, that which is her norm before afflicted with the irregular bleeding. Then it mentioned فإن لم يكن لها عادة فإلى تمييزها. If she doesn't have a regular custom of her cycle, then it goes to tamyiz. She has to distinguish between the two types of bleeding, because the menstrual cycle has sifat, it has characteristics of the type of blood. As for irregular bleeding, then it's going to be different than this. So it mentions, as for the being commanded to following her normal cycle, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he mentioned Habiba bint Jahsh عنها complained to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ regarding her cycle and regarding it being irregular, and he said امكثي قدر ما كانت تحبسك حيضتك ثم اغتسلي. Now, so here it mentions that he told her remain upon that which you would have been held by your cycle previously, and then perform ghusl. And in general, as it mentions, فإن لم يكن لها تمييز فإلى عادة النساء الغالبة 6 أيام أو 7. if she doesn't have, if she's not able to distinguish between the two, then she goes back to the norm of the majority of the women, and that is 6 or 7 days. Now, a person has to observe the longest time the menses can be is 15 days. But that would be determined from your normal cycle. If you normally was 6 days, 7 days, we're not going to say your cycle is 15 days. But it may be from the beginning when you started having menses that you had for 15 days. That would be your norm. If that was something that was continuous. But if it's something that changed later, then you determine whether your norm was 6 days, and this is istihada, which is effectively the eye from the vein. And that is because in the hadith of Fatima, رضي عنها, bint Abi Habish or Hubaysh, رضي عنها, كانت تستحاض. She used to have defective bleeding. فقال لها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: إذا كان دم الحيض فإنه دم أسود يعرف، فإذا كان ذلك فأمسكي عن الصلاة، فإذا كان الآخر فتوضئي وصلي فإنما هو عرق. So he mentioned, if it is the menstrual bleeding, then it is a dark blood, dark color, that is known. And if it is the case, then you avoid the salah. However, if it is the other type, it doesn't have that characteristic, it's not dark, it's lighter, it doesn't have a scent and the likes, they're not the same as the menstrual bleeding, then perform wudu and pray. هناك خلاف بين أهل العلم whether you make wudu for every salah or not. Wallahu a'lam, you don't have to. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, but that's the opinion I'm inclined to. But if you do follow that you should, wallah la ba's, that's the opinion you follow, then that's what is upon you. And he says, فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ عَرَقٌ. It's because it is a vein. So it's not from the womb, it's from a vein. So that is the difference between the two. That's what is mentioned. But as we know, when the woman is on her cycle, then of the things that she's not allowed to do is salah wa siyam. وهناك من يقول لا تمس القرآن، لا تمسح المصحف, she doesn't touch the mushaf. ولكن يجوز لها أن تمسح المصحف بالقفاز. She can wear gloves or use a tissue or something, a cloth, no problem. نعم. Or read from a phone, لا بأس إن شاء الله تعالى. وهناك خلاف بين أهل العلم هل يجوز لها الجلوس في المسجد. Is she allowed to sit in a masjid؟ والله أعلم، ولكن القول الذي أتبعه أنه يجوز لها الجلوس في المسجد إذا أمكنت من المحافظة على البقعة. I follow she's allowed to be in the masjid as long as she preserves the place of prayer from being afflicted with impurity. So she takes the necessary measures to ensure that she safeguards the impure blood from being spread anywhere else. Now, and the same thing is for nifas, postnatal bleeding after childbirth. The same ruling applies of no salah, no siyam. Now, but as I mentioned, if you have detailed situations when you are afflicted with irregular cycles and the likes, then go back to your teachers from the women folk who have experience and knowledge, inshallah ta'ala, in that regard. It's not coming. I feel like I'm going to sneeze and I'll start playing games. A point to mention. If she finds herself to become pure during the time of the salah, she has to hasten to perform ghusl to catch that time of the salah. If she's pure at the time of Maghrib, by when the ghurub al-shams, like after sunset, sorry, by one rak'ah, then she has to make up Salat al-Maghrib. Or sorry, if she started her cycle, forget what I just said, if she started her cycle after Maghrib by one rak'ah, you was able to pray one rak'ah, then you have to make up Maghrib when you finish your cycle. Now,
can you say one more time?
if she starts her cycle after ghurub al-shams بمقدار ركعة after Maghrib by one rak'ah, يجب عليها إذا طهرت قضاء صلاة المغرب. She has to make up صلاة المغرب. يقاس على ذلك, we can say قياس, the same will apply to other salawat. نعم شيخ.
The question which comes to me, is it by the rak'ah if the masjid lays the salah or by the adhan?
By the time,
It comes, because the adhan...
it's not to do with the adhan of the masjid. The system of the masjid is to do with the time of the salah entered. If the time of the salah is entered,
Yes, that's the adhan.
and the period of time between the adhan and the menses,
Yes.
you could have prayed one rak'ah.
Oh, okay, I understand it.
Yeah? If you could have prayed one rak'ah, you have to make that up.
Okay, I've understood it. Barakallahu fikum.
No, yeah, Sheikh. جميل. So that's the end of the كتاب الطهارة. ونبدأ بفضل الله تعالى كتاب الصلاة. لماذا نبدأ بكتاب الطهارة قبل كتاب الصلاة? Why do we start with the book of طهارة prior to the book of صلاة? No, Sheikh.
Because there's no salah without tahara.
نعم. لا صلاة من غير الطهارة. نعم. شمش الصلاة عبادة تتضمن أقوالا وأفعالا مخصوصة مبتدأة بالتكبير ومختتمة بالتسليم وهي نوعان. The salah is an act of worship that consists of specific statements and actions that begins with takbirah, saying Allahu Akbar, takbiratul ihram, that enters you into the salah, ومختتمة, and it comes to an end with التسليم, saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. هذا هو السنة. يعني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقول هذا أكثر. That's the thing the Prophet used to say the most. You might find Assalamu alaikum just to the right once, slightly to the right, Assalamu alaikum. This is from the nawadir, the thing that the Prophet did rarely. It wasn't something he did often. So when we find actions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ done rarely, the sunnah is also to keep them to be done rarely. Don't say, no, but I like it, so I'm going to do it all the time. لا, هذا خلاف السنة. Prophet didn't do it often, so you don't do it
So by it,
often.
it's good to keep reviving it.
Every so often, time to time.
Okay.
So it's not forgotten.
Yes.
No. Jimmy. The salawat, as we mentioned, the salah is two types. Faridatun wa nafilatun. That which is an obligation and that which is voluntary. والفريضة هي التي تجب على كل مسلم بالغ عاقل غير حائض ونفساء. This is the faridah, the obligatory salah is that which is upon every Muslim at the age of puberty, that is of sound mind, that isn't on their menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding. ويؤمر بها الصبي لسبع سنين ويضرب عليها ل10 وهي 5 في اليوم والليلة. The child at the age of 7 is commanded to pray and disciplined upon it at the age of 10. And there are 5 throughout the day and the night. Al-Fajr, raka'atan, 2 raka'at. Al-Dhuhr, 4 raka'at. Dhuhr, which is 4 raka'at. Al-Asri, 4 raka'at, 4 raka'at. Wal-Maghrib, 3. And Isha, 4. أما النوافل هي التي لا تجب وإنما تستحب. The nawafil, the nafila, is that which is not an obligation but rather recommended. وهي كثيرة تنقسم إلى قسمين. There are many and it's of 2 types. نوافل مطلقة, general, التي يصليها العبد متى شاء في الليل أو في النهار في غير أوقات النهي. And this is the salawat a person can pray whenever they want throughout the day and the night, as long as it's not during the times of prohibition. Then you have nawafil muqayyada. You have the voluntary salawat that are at a specific time. وهي كل ما له زمن محدد أو سبب محدد ومنها السنن الرواتب. These types of voluntary prayers are those that have a specific time or a specific reason. And from the likes of them are Sunan al-Rawatib, the voluntary salawat that come with the obligatory salat. They're attached to obligatory salat, like rak'atay fajr, the 2 rak'at before fajr, wa arba' qabla al-dhuhr wa ithnain أو 2 بعد الظهر و2 بعد المغرب و2 بعد العشاء. نعم. وكذلك بعد الوضوء وكذلك بين الأذان والإقامة, between the adhan and the إقامة. نعم. Also كذلك من الصلوات المستحبة الاستخارة. Person prays استخارة ويجوز أن يصلي استخارة مع كل ركعتين غير الفريضة. You can pray Salat al-Istikhara with any 2 rak'ah that is not obligatory. So if you pray Tahiyyat al-Masjid, you can combine between Tahiyyat al-Masjid and Istikhara. Yeah. The next point as mentioned in the Salah, Shurut al-Salah. للصلاة شروط. The Salah has conditions. والشرط لابد أن يكون موجودا قبل العبادة حتى فراغ من العبادة. The conditions of the Salah have to be in place from before the act of worship until the act of worship has been completed. Example, الوضوء. إذا نقض الوضوء بطلت الصلاة. If the wudu is broken, the salah is null and void. لازم أن تعيد الوضوء وتعيد الصلاة من أولها. You have to renew the wudu and restart the salah from its beginning. You don't make wudu and then say, I was in the second rak'ah, let me go back to the second rak'ah. لا. However, if you're doing tawaf and you break wudu, you go and make wudu and then you continue from where you left off. No. So the first condition of salah is al-Islam. لا يصح صلاة الكافر. That's why we say, for example, in the Salat al-Jama'ah, let's say someone's not Muslim, they want to practice salah. They can't be in the saf, they have to be at the end. So you don't break the sufuf. No. أن ليس ما عندهم أهلية للصلاة. لا يصح صلاتهم. What if I miss one step during wudu? Then make wudu, go back and you make wudu. if you miss one step in wudu, your wudu is not valid. The second, al-aql. Al-aql. Listen, if this is after wudu and it happens frequently, forget this. Don't ask about it ever again. This is waswas. Okay, if it happens often, don't ask about it ever again, because the only cure for waswas is to ignore it after the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-aql, sound mind. فلا يجب الصلاة على المجنون. لا يصح صلاة المجنون. The one who's not of sound mind, not mentally sound, the salah is not correct. التمييز. هذا الشرط لصحة الصلاة. At the age of 7, able to differ between matters. أحد الصحابة كان يؤم الناس وهو 6 أو 7 سنين. One of the Sahaba used to lead his people in prayer whilst he was 6 or 7. نعم. ويعني غر من يظن أن أولاده مثل الصحابة في هذا العمر. الله المستعان. You have the people are deceived who compare their children today to the Sahaba at the age of 6, 7 years old. You find some, subhanAllah, I know some young children memorize Quran, 7 years old. They're different than other children. May Allah preserve them, preserve all of our children. Ameen. هذا فضل من Allah. This is a virtue from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يؤتيه من يشاء. Allah gives it to whomsoever He wills. Fourthly, رفع الحدث, which is طهارة بالوضوء أو الغسل. A person has to remove the impurity, the spiritual impurity that allows you to pray, either by wudu or ghusl. وما يقوم مقامهما من التيمم, or whatever fulfills this, replaces it with تيمم لعدم الوجود أو قدرة على استعمال الماء, because there's no water or not able to use water. Fifth, إزالة النجاسة, removing the impurity. وهذا يكون من البدن ومن الثوب ومن البقع. Removing the impurities by removing it from the body. If you go to the toilet, you clean yourself before you make wudu. Now, you remove impurities from your body first. You remove impurities from your clothing. إذا أصاب ثوبك شيء فغسله. يعني anything that comes on your thawb that's impure, you wash that part of your thawb. نعم. The place of prayer has to also be pure. You remove any impurities from the place of prayer. As-sadis, number 6, ستر العورة. ستر العورة, that you cover the awrah for the salah. And you have the awrah for the men is from the surra ila rukbah, from the belly button, the navel to the knees. وكذلك في الصلاة المنكبين. المنكبين, you cover the 2 shoulders. وينبغي للمسلم أن يأخذ زينته كما قال تعالى خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد. Beautify yourself for the masjid. Wear appropriate clothing for the salah. وهذا من باب التعظيم للصلاة. This is also from the ways people glorify and honor the salah. The salah is given its due importance. وللمرأة جميع بدنها غير وجهها ويديها وعند بعض قدميها. As for the woman, she covers everything but her face and her hands, and also, with difference of opinion, her feet can be shown. وذهب إلى هذا الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية والأحناف, بعض الأحناف, والله تعالى أعلم. Difference of opinion. We mention it because it's something that is common and seen, and if you understand this difference, you won't say anything to someone else. You understand? خلاص, if I follow you have to cover, I'll cover my foot. As for the other person, لا يجب عليه لا يتبع هذا الكون. نعم شيخ.
2 questions. For the man, when you say from here to the knees, is it to the knees or
You have to cover the knee, yeah.
meaning below the knee now?
Yes.
Not when you say to the knee because to cover the knees.
Yeah, below the knee. So the knee has to be covered.
Okay. And the two pants.
The shoulders.
No problem.
They have to be covered.
But then you say from here.
No, but in the salah,
In Salah.
yeah, outside the salah, that's the awrah.
Okay.
No.
So in Salah, it must be below the knees, not to the knee.
Yeah, below. Can a man wear shorts outside?
Yes. What do you mean by short?
Shorts above his knee.
Oh no, that's out. The out is still out.
Who says no? Who says yes? Mad Dalil, what's the evidence?
Nabi says that you should not show your aura except your spouse.
And Nabi Sallallahu
The aura.
when Uthman anhu entered upon him, before that he was with some of the companions, right? Was his thigh showing? No. And when Uthman entered, what did he do? He covered his thigh. Was that because it's set al-awrah?
No.
استحياء. The shyness from عثمان. وهذا الدليل على الجواز. ولكن الشيخ الفاضل الفقيه العصر شيخنا الشيخ عثيمين رحمه الله تعالى ماذا قال؟ Sheikh Uthaymeen, he mentioned, as for the young person, shouldn't show his legs because it's fitna. Now, fitna. Now, can you imagine when the brothers start wearing shorts outside? Crazy? Allah musta'an. لا نريد هذا. You don't want this. Also, يخالف المروءة. It opposes dignity. Especially لأهل الالتزام, those who are seen as steadfast. نعم. فلا نقول أنه لا يجوز, يكون يجوز ولكن يكره.
Follows in the fold of imitating those who don't believe.
لا ليس كذلك. بل يعني من باب هل هي عورة أم لا؟ في خلاف. No. Why do I mention these things? For us to learn to be gentle with each other. Yeah, you can play football with some shorts, inshallah. If you're in the rooms of football. But while you're going there, cover it, inshallah. Don't be fitna for the people. No. But it doesn't mean because you say, oh, it's allowed, you just do it. No. You actually ask yourself, what would the people think of me if I did this? Could you imagine me wearing shorts that you can see my thigh? غريب جدا. If you see that, call the hospital. Something's not right with you. Or the ruqya. نسأل السلامة والعافية. Now, but this is just to understand, because what happens, sometimes we become harsh with people because we don't know. And even that person who's doing that, they may not know that it's permissible, but they're doing it anyway, but still encourage them to cover it, yes. But don't treat them like they're doing something that is haram. Okay? So that's how we understand differences of opinion and the likes. There may be something that is preferred to be done. It can be encouraged, but we don't treat that person as if they're falling into haram. No. Even between women, what's the awrah from women to women? عورتها بين النساء مثل عورة الرجال. It's the same for men. Belly button to knees. No. However, we say obviously though they should have some dignity also. And as we know, times have changed, and there's some people who are tested with being inclined to the same. No. So you don't open the doors for them. No. Dukhul al-waqt. Number 7, the time has entered. Why do we mention the time entering as being a condition of the salah? You have some people who have some ailments like silsilat al-bawl or in kathratul madi, madha'an. There are some people who have afflicted with continuous droplets of urine after they relieve themselves, or they always have premature sexual fluid. What does that person do? At the time the salah has entered, they make wudu. But as for one who has madi, you have to wash your private part, and they make wudu at the time the salah has entered. Even if something comes out, they don't renew their wudu, they pray. But you cannot make wudu until the time of the salah has entered. Number 8, istiqbal al-qibla. Facing the direction of the qibla. But they mention if you're on your riding beast and you're praying the sunnah, you can pray the direction of your riding beast. كما فعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Number 9, النية. Intention. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Actions are by the intentions. والنية تميز بين الفريضة والنافلة. The intention is what distinguishes between something voluntary and something wajib. Also, محل النية القلب. The place of intention is the heart. لا يجوز التلفظ بالنية فإنها بدعة. It's not permissible to proclaim and say the intention of your tongue. This is innovation. نعم يخالف حج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So mentioned تقدم أن الطهارة من شروطها ومن شروطها دخول الوقت. We mentioned that tahara is from the conditions of the salah and also entering of the time. والأصل في حديث جبريل أنه أما النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في أول الوقت وآخره وقال يا محمد الصلاة ما بين هذين الوقتين. It mentions that the Prophet Muhammad was led in the salah by Jibreel alayhi salam in the first of his time and the end of his time, and he said, "O Muhammad, the salah is in between these two times." This is also refutation of the people that call themselves the Quraniyun, the Quranists, because al-waqt as-salah la yu'raf illa bis-sunnah. نعم وصفة الصلاة لا تعرف إلا بالسنة. The description of the salah, the times of the salah is only known through the sunnah. نعم نسأل الله يرزقنا معرفة الحق واتباعه اللهم آمين. You ask God to make us those who know the truth and follow it. And also is mentioned here وعن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال وقت الظهر إذا زالت الشمس. The time of dhuhr is when the sun زالت بمعنى مالت عن كبد السماء إلى جهة المغرب, that it started to incline towards the west, maghrib. وكان ذل الرجل كطوله ما لم تحضر العصر, and that his shadow is like the same length as him as long as Asr has not come in. ووقت العصر من نهاية وقت الظهر ما لم تصفر الشمس. The time of Asr is from the end of the time of Dhuhr as long as the sun has not become yellow. Now, the color starts to go like towards red, yellowy red, as it is setting. ووقت صلاة المغرب من غروب الشمس ما لم يغب الشفق الأحمر. So it mentions the time of Salat al-Maghrib is from the sunset as long as the reddish line on the horizon twilight has not disappeared. ووقت صلاة العشاء من مغيب الشفق الأحمر إلى نصف الليل. And the time of Isha is from the twilight going, the red twilight, until half of the night. Half of the night is الوقت بين دخول المغرب والفجر. And the middle of that is the middle of the night. ووقت صلاة الصبح من طلوع الفجر الثاني ما لم تطلع الشمس. رواه مسلم. And the time of the Salat al-Fajr is from the true entering of the dawn as long as the sun hasn't risen. ويدرك وقت الصلاة بإدراك ركعة لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أدرك ركعة من الصلاة فقد أدرك الصلاة متفق عليه. يدرك الصلاة وقت الصلاة. The salah is caught as long as you catch one rak'ah before the time comes out. So even if you prayed the rest of the salah خارج الوقت بأنك أدركت ركعة أدركت الصلاة. The fact you have caught a rak'ah, you have caught the salah. وهذا حديث متفق عليه بخاري ومسلم. ولا يحل تأخيرها أو تأخير بعضها عن وقتها لعذر أو غيره إلا إذا أخرها ليجمعها مع غيرها فإنه يجوز لعذر من سفر أو مطر أو مرض أو نحوها والأفضل تقديم الصلاة في أول وقتها. Now, it mentioned it's not permissible to delay the salah or delay a part of the salah whether it's for an excuse or no excuse, such as traveling. These are excuses. Like, however, that's any excuse. There's no excuse to delay the salah except for the excuse that has been given by the Sharia. The excuse within the Sharia is traveling, heavy rain, or sickness, because there you are excusing, you are delaying the salah to what? Combined. To combine the salah with another time. So during the heavy rain you find what Maghrib and Isha combined. Now, when someone's traveling, Dhuhr wal Asr, Maghrib wal Isha combined, wa yuqassar and shortened. All of these rulings, they occur for a legitimate excuse within the Sharia. وأفضل الأفضل تقديم الصلاة في أول وقتها. The best thing to do is to pray the salah in its earliest time, within its earliest time. Except for al-Isha إذا لم يشق, except for the Salat al-Isha if it's not going to be difficult. Now,
Traveling, how long can you shorten and combine?
I'm of the opinion as long as you're a traveler.
So if you go over 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Now, some say up to 4 days. فيه خلاف. I'm of the opinion that as long as you're a traveler, now it's permissible to combine and shorten. والله تعالى أعلم. وإلا الظهر في شدة الحر. And I say I'm of the opinion today, according to my knowledge of what I believe is strongest, but I might change. Okay, so it's not about, for me it's about, okay, what becomes more clear based on the evidence. Now, because you may have an opinion today, then you may be enlightened with more knowledge that will cause you to change your stance. There's no harm in this. But it's the problem when we pick and choose for desires, not for seeking that which is the truth.
And when this advice is, like you say, as long as you travel, even if you stay for a year and 2 years and 3 years,
It is
as long as you haven't come back
No.
You can still shoot him. That's insurance, whatever.
That's what you have some narrations of the Sahaba and of the Salaf, they
Yes.
consider themselves to be traveling for a long period of time.
Yes.
Also, Salat al-Dhuhr fi shiddat al-har. When it's very hot, it's permissible to delay Salat al-Dhuhr
When it comes down.
till it cools down. Now, لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال في صحيح البخاري إذا اشتد الحر فأبردوا عن الصلاة فإن شدة الحر من فيح جهنم. When the heat is intensified, then cool down from the salah. I wait for the salah, wait for the time to be a bit cooler before you pray. And this is a neglected sunnah. Today people religiously follow the timetable.
Yeah. Keep watching.
When I walk up from the back sometimes, Allah musta'an.
Eat your
If you didn't have strong character, some people, they wouldn't be able to cope. Eyes of hawks. Some people, they tell you they start doing this.
No, not you.
They know not to do it to me now, Sheikh. But for the faint-hearted, they'll do it. What if I need to make wudu? Oh, I forgot. La, these people are waiting. Couple minutes. You know what happens when they do this stuff? They lose khushu'.
And
Allah Muslim, they're angry.
after salam, he's going to be standing outside the door.
Yeah, they're going to relax. One sheikh, he told us a story here in this masjid. He came. This was when I first lived in Arabic. 2013. Sheikh Haytham Sarhan, Hafizahullah. And he mentioned someone said, Sheikh, yalla, waqt as-salah, Sheikh. Sheikh, come, it's time for salah. You're late. So Sheikh, okay. He prayed, led the salah. After salah, Sheikh is miskeen, the music guy. He said, yo, what you say? Not even salam alaikum. He doesn't learn, Sheikh. Allah musta'an. So, after the salah, the Sheikh goes to this person. He said, let me talk to you. They talked for half an hour outside the masjid. Then the Sheikh said to him, you rushed me for the salah, as if you didn't have any time. And he says, ibadah, worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you let me take half an hour of your time talking about the dunya.
This business is permissible. This permissible. Dunya.
This is the state we find ourselves in. You'll learn people to stay away from. When you talk about things of goodness, things of Islam, they get bored, angry. Enough. Go find hada and stop. This is too much for me. We've had enough of hadith for today. You don't want people like this around you. You want people that when you mention a benefit that's new, maybe they get goosebumps. Like, yeah, subhanAllah, I didn't know that. Heart softness especially. نحن في أشد الحاجة إلى الرقائق. We are in most need of heart softness. Heart softness. Our hearts have become hard. Why? Because of our sins. But when our hearts become soft, we're able to taste sweetness of worship. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال حبب إلي من الدنيا الطيب والنساء. Beloved to me from the worldly affairs, women and perfume. But he said جعلت قرة عيني في الصلاة. the comfort, the pleasure of his eyes, the things he found most pleasing, the salah. Worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only way we're able to achieve this level of al-khudu' wal-khushu', that tranquility and submission to Allah, is by softening the heart. Soften the heart of the Quran, soften the heart with pondering over the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, remembering Allah's favors upon you. All of this softens the heart. Look at the people who don't have. هذا مهم. This is important. Now, then it says, وَمَنْ فَاتَتْهُ صَلَاةٌ وَجِبَ عَلَيْهِ قَضَاؤُهَا فَوْرًا مُرَتَّبًا. Whoever misses the salah, it's obligatory for them to make it up immediately in order. Let's say a person fell asleep though, and he didn't pray Isha, and they wake up and it's near to sunrise. What do they pray first? Fajr. They pray Fajr first, so he doesn't miss Fajr, and then they pray Isha that they owe. Now, as I mentioned, فإن نسي الترتيب أو جهله أو خاف وقت الصلاة فوت الصلاة سقط الترتيب بينها وبين الحاضر. If a person forgets the order or doesn't know it or fears missing the salah that is in now, then they have to leave off the order and pray the salah now and then make up the salah that they have missed. So for example, a person comes to the masjid and their salat al-jama'ah is asr. They haven't prayed dhuhr. The time for dhuhr is gone. So they pray asr with the intention of dhuhr. And straight away after the jama'ah they pray asr. Like this. Now. And we mentioned, alhamdulillah, the conditions of the salah in general. No, Sheikh.
So you haven't clarified there because someone would think you've stopped at Asr. But what about if I came in Maghrib? Because the time of Asr now is gone.
Yeah, so if you came in Maghrib, you pray
Maghrib first.
La, because you still have time. So if you miss Asr and you pray in Maghrib with the Jama'ah, for example,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
when the Imam says Salaam Alaikum to finish Maghrib, you stand up and finish one rak'ah for Asr. And then you pray Maghrib straight after because you're still within the time of Maghrib now. So you won't miss Maghrib.
So I do what I missed up in the day.
Yes, first. Unless, for example, the salah now, I'm going to miss the time of that salah right now. And I still owe a salah from before. I pray the salah that's in right now first so I don't miss that one also. You understand, sir?
Not yet.
So, for example,
We are nearly the middle of the night, let's say, for example.
I haven't prayed Asr and I haven't prayed Maghrib.
Yes.
And it's coming toward the entering of Isha.
Okay.
Okay? The time of Maghrib is still in.
Yes.
But I also need to pray Asr.
That's right.
But if I pray Asr first, I'm also going to miss Maghrib
In its time.
in its time. So I pray Maghrib first
So that you pray it in its time.
in its time. And then I pray Asr after. Like this.
Fine.
That's of the times I mentioned that the order is excused.
Oh. Fine.
Because to miss another salah is greater in sin. It's worse. Now, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Next lesson, inshallah, we'll start to talk about sifat al-salah, the description of the salah, which will consist of the wajibat and the arkan, the obligatory actions of the salah, the pillars of the salah, inshallah. I want this to be memorized though. I want you to memorize the conditions, the pillars, and the wajibat. And then also that which nullifies the salah. And then you'll be tested on it, inshallah. جيد امتحان بإذن الله تعالى. So we'll stop there, inshallah. Any other questions?
What about if you wake up near Fajr, or Fajr really going to be finished, you still haven't prayed your sunnah, and you pray your sunnah after? I know it's
There's difference of opinion regarding making up sunnah of Fajr. Some say that was specific to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam only. Wallahu a'lam. I'll look into it. Inshallah. طيب بارك الله فيكم ونصلي وسلم على نبينا وحبيب محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.